Hey everyone, this is Louis7. Welcome to my review of the new Angle of Mitheithel zone in the Lord of the Rings Online. This zone was added in Update 32 Rangers and Ruins, and similar to Wildwood last year, it fits a small gap in Eriador. Mitheithel is located in the southern portion of Trollshaws, extending down to the intersection of the Mitheithel and Bruinen rivers. It has quests that range from level 40 to 45, which is complementary to Trollshaws proper, which goes from 35 to 40. For starting the zone, there were no pop-ups or introductions in-game about the new zone. Fortunately, I already knew to talk to Elrohir and Thorinhad to get a breadcrumb quest that has you travel to Mitheithel, but for players unfamiliar with that, I could see it being a bit confusing to start, or players not even knowing there's like a new zone in the game at low levels, if they don't really pay attention to the patches or updates or anything like that. So yeah, starting the actual zone can be a little bit rough, but to start off the review of the zone once we start it, let's go ahead and cover the world building. With many recent updates, I have grown to have fairly high expectations with new zones in LOTRO, and the Angle of Mitheithel does not let me down. You all might know Scenario as the senior world builder who has done a lot of zones in LOTRO, but it sounds like there's actually another world designer who crafted Mitheithel. And just like Scenario commented here, it is a breath of fresh air. The Angle takes on a climate similar to that of Trollshaws, of course, and a little bit like Eregion, and it just feels like a classic Eriador zone in terms of its atmosphere. There are quite a few wonderful sites and connections to old zones. Hopefully you all can get a sense of that, like the environment from the video, and perhaps my favorite was actually the village of Thorinhad. If instead of Erebor housing we got Thorinhad housing with Update 32, I might have finally actually bought a house, or premium house even, in LOTRO. But back on the note of connections in this zone, it is honestly a little bit of a tease of a zone and how seemingly accessible neighboring areas are, even though there are invisible walls blocking you from going out of bounds to non-developed areas. I have to admit, invisible walls are frustrating because it is something that it feels like it's an artificial limitation of where you can go rather than an actual physical limitation. If there are giant mountain walls blocking my path, I don't really care because that's like, it's more physically sound than something that's just like not there and you randomly stop going because it's an invisible wall. Now, digressing from the invisible walls to talk about another frustrating aspect of the exploration with Mitheithel, it was actually a little bit disappointing that there's still this little area between Eregion and Mitheithel now, and even if it's just empty space, I would have loved to at least had it to explore, even if it didn't have any content in it. And maybe it is just something we can look forward to in a future update if Standing Stone Games ends up filling out areas like around here, south of Bree and Lonelands. Overall, the zone Angle of Mitheithel itself is quite small though, and if I look at the content in the zone, there is just not much overall actually. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but compared to recent zones or the easily comparable Wildwood, there just aren't as many quests, not as many deeds, not as many enemies, and just overall not as much. But I actually did find this change of pace and lower density of things to be very nice feeling, and it was more of a like serene questing experience going through the zone. It offers a great alternative to other zones in the level range, and while the zone is much smaller, it has quite a bit of a quest feel and pacing kind of similar to that of Forakel, which is, yeah, way different zone. But on the note of the level range of the zone, I am honestly not the biggest fan of it being level 40 to 45, just because that particular level range is already oversaturated with other options, whereas many other level ranges have fewer options or even only like one option for questing. That said, this level range is actually great for its location and a wonderful transition after you finish Trollshaws proper. Something that was quite odd when I quested through the zone was the mob level range. While all the quests were level 40 to 45, so that part was accurate, the mobs range from level 37 all the way to 45. For me, that was actually really entertaining, even if it was odd at first. It helped the zone feel unique, and again, like it fits in really well with Trollshaws, with having some mobs be the same level as the Trollshaws zone. To get back to the content, Mitheithel is surrounded by elvish and human areas. It features quests and storylines involving elves and Dunedain. Instead of one single linear storyline, there were a few things going on at once. I personally really appreciated this as it made the zone not feel like a slog and actually like a joy to quest through. To avoid big spoilers, I will just say that there was a touching storyline focused around an elf who was departing west, and he was just having to deal with some connections he made in the Angle. And then the other major storyline involved Dunlending and Sauron. The latter was interesting as it brought forth some of what we started to see in Eregion and then again in Dunland, but these were two areas that I had already been through. If you are a new player and lower level and haven't gone through Eregion and Dunland, I don't know how your experience might differ seeing some of these elements. Now for enemies, there were basic beasts, a few avanks by the streams, and then a focus on orcs, half-orcs, and evil men such as brigands, and a lot of spirits and oathbreakers in this zone. I thought there was a decent variety and never felt like I was fighting the same thing over and over throughout the zone, which was a good thing. But one initial letdown for the content was the lack of missions, but honestly, missions aren't always my favorite thing to do, and I don't think they are necessary to enjoy the zone. And after going through the zone, this didn't really bother me much that there weren't missions, actually. And the final note on content is that they also fit a little bit of Hobbit in the Angle as well, which was neat to experience. No spoilers beyond that. Rewards for quests were surprisingly good quality with a lot of purple gear and even decently statted armor and jewelry, which scale a lot better with LOTRO's modern stat bloat, so you can expect to upgrade your character's equipment from questing in the zone. A highlight of the quest was that some of them gave Virtue XP. I absolutely love that, and I really hope SSG continues to add Virtue XP to quests. On the note of rewards, something I tend to be more critical about in LOTRO is reputation and grindy reputation. And while the Angle of Mitheithel is just the opposite of that. Just through quests in the zone with 0 reputation boost, you can actually max out the reputation and get to Kindred. Just like the sunny skies and green vegetation were a breath of fresh air here, the lack of rep grind was definitely a breath of fresh air as well. Besides travel skills, rewards are purely cosmetic with a couple housing items and 3 cosmetic pets, with the Cinderhawk being my personal favorite at the moment. It actually makes my champion, who's the one I went through this zone on, feel like a lore master, which is kind of odd. But at first, I was kind of wishing there were some, say, random armor pieces or just something gear-wise from the reputation, but after getting all that I did from the questing, I actually kind of liked the different take on just only having cosmetics from the reputation. Deed-wise, the Angle of Mitheithel was fairly standard with a set of exploration deeds, a series of quest deeds, and of course some slayer deeds, 3 major types of deeds in the game. The advanced slayer deeds weren't too difficult to do, but like with other nearby zones, they can take a lot of slaying. At least they were fairly easy to get done because you didn't have to hunt like rare or like very scattered out mobs much. And yeah, that wraps up the Angle of Mitheithel content. Overall, the Angle of Mitheithel was a very fun zone to me that was a breath of fresh air in a few ways. First, I wasn't bothered about LOTRO systems that have caused me to take a break from Gundabad endgame. If you have not seen it, I will link my video talking about that below in the description. And then second, the stories were a much welcome break from dwarves. As much as I do enjoy dwarf content, I've just had too much of them lately. And third, the Eriador and Elvish style world building and atmosphere was nice to get back to and just have something new with that theme. And then fourth and final, it was just a zone with a relaxing pace and a good sense for my character progression. If anybody has a character round level of 40, I highly recommend playing through this zone, especially if you have already played through the old zones in the same level range. Let me know your thoughts on the zone and if you also liked it. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something useful. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more or becoming a channel member to support the content. And thanks for watching, everyone.